Gentlemen, the US presidential election is now heating up. We're down to the last day already. So, most importantly, right now, the candidates are neck to neck. And what are the implications if either one of them were to win? Well, who's leading right now? And when one wins, what are we supposed to do, right? So, today we'll attempt to analyze all these things and most importantly, tell you what Mr. Lu is going to do at the end of the video. So, let's watch on. So as usual, these are my disclaimers and let's go. So Vice President Kamala Harris and ex-President Donald Trump are right now having neck-to-neck close race for the presidential election. And right now, more than 65 million Americans has already voted. And this is quite interesting progress. They are not like the Singapore system where, polling day in one day we can finish and then, we count the votes. So the US system gives a lot more leeway. It's a bigger country and things like that. And I think this is very important to know where we're heading right now. So based on November the 1st national polls, Kamala Harris has a 1.5 points lead over Trump in the average of national polls. So Harris is about 48% and Trump's about 46.8%. Now it doesn't mean that the 1.2 point lead will make her home run. This is a very, very thin margin. This really doesn't mean that Harris have any significant advantage. I would think that this is statistically insignificant. Let's take a look at 2nd of November what happens. So as at 2nd of November, Kamala Harris still have a slight lead over Trump ahead of the election day, according to YouGov final presidential estimate. This election polling model shows that Harris now have a 3-point lead, okay, nationally, 50% versus 47%. And it also shows that they have 240 electoral votes versus Donald Trump's 218. Now, the most important is not the national vote, but it's more important is how many electoral votes, basically how many states are voting for Kamala Harris and how many are voting for Donald Trump. So it certainly seems to lean towards Kamala Harris. And the previous poll shows that Kamala Harris have 250 electoral votes. Donald Trump have 219. Basically, it does show that Kamala Harris have a slight lead, but actually the lead seems to be quite on the knife edge. But let's watch on. Interestingly, Adam Khoo, whom I follow very closely, I trust his judgment quite a lot. He actually said this, which I want to share with in his Facebook. More than 50 million has already voted in US election. Exit poll shows a huge landslide victory for Kamala Harris among early voters. If you still think that Trump can win, you're living in La La dreamland. So his opinion by looking at the exit poll as at yesterday or so seems to indicate towards Harris' victory as well. But I would just say that while it is true there is a slight lead, I'm now not 100% convinced that this Harris will win. Okay, but let's take a look right now. What if Harris will win? What if Donald Trump were to win? Right? What's the implication? Now, to be frank, I don't know how many of you have affinity towards either candidate. There are most of us in Singapore, Malaysia. We may have certain opinion, but they are not our country leaders, right? Yes, certainly what they do may have implication to us from far away, because this is going to be the most powerful position on earth. But the truth is that all of us probably like or don't like based on certain things and not because of their policy. But let's watch on and see what's the implication if either one were to win. Let's take a look at Donald Trump first, shall we? So if Donald Trump were to win, okay, is actually in the short run, my opinion is actually good for the stock market. For one simple reason, he promised to significantly reduce corporate tax rate. And his opinion is that this reduction in corporate tax rate will not only help in increasing employment opportunity, but also cool down inflation. Okay, and he also want to bring back all the corporate tax cut that he has signed in 2017. Basically, those corporate tax cut has expired. He want to bring them back. And he also want to reduce tax for individual and corporation if he wins, and elimination of tax on tips social security benefits. This lowering of a tax rate from 21% to 15% is very, very significant. If it does, people actually predicted that this tax cut could add another $5.8 trillion to the national debt over a decade, right? So hard to say whether this is good or bad for US in the long run, but at least in the short run, with companies now have a lower in corporate tax rate, the profits will go up. So, stock price is likely to go up. In the issue of foreign policy, Joe Biden administration right now is clearly supporting Ukraine and led the whole NATO in supporting Ukraine with a lot of financial aid and also military aid. But Donald Trump basically outright says that, what the hell should I be paying for someone so far away, right? So he has clearly indicated they will end this support and pressure Ukraine, especially President Zelensky, to accept the peace arrangement, the peace conditions on Moscow terms. And actually, this is something that is concerning to many people, to Ukraine as well. To be frank, I'm also concerned about this one. It's basically not fair, right? Especially for a small country like Singapore, arguably Malaysia as well. If we allow this kind of philosophy to prevail, it basically means that small countries are at the whims and fancies of big countries, and we can get bullied, right? So this is actually quite worrying. The other one is immigration policy. So Trump and his Vice President J.D. Vance is very against immigration. And right now they are threatening to have the largest deportation exercise in the entire history of America. They want to deport as many as possible undocumented immigrants, basically illegal immigrants, okay? And if this were to happen, the house of prices will soften, right? And potentially also inflationary pressure and things like that. Just too many people in US. So you bring down demand, you cool down inflation. Right? Actually, that's a quite interesting angle to look at it. And they also plan to review some of the refugee program and end the birthright citizenship for children of illegal immigrants and blah, blah, blah. So a lot of concern over there. And certainly this one is something that a lot of the residents of America, they are not Americans, is very concerned about. And this is also a very interesting thing in the issue of Middle East. Donald Trump is actually very pro-Israel, and I've actually made a few phone calls to some Israeli friends and things like that. I think the majority of Israel is very pro-Trump, and I that if Trump were to win, Israel will continue to have a lot of support on the offensive against all its enemies. So now switching over to Kamala Harris. What if Vice President Kamala Harris becomes the president? Well, the most important thing is that she would maintain her policy of increasing tax on the wealthy and the corporation. I think she has got this philosophy of robbing the rich to giving to the poor kind of philosophy. And that's actually bad for the stock market, right? Philosophically, that should be the way, but the truth is that it's going to be bad for the stock market. Kamala Harris also is very against Russia. And if Donald Trump were to win and actually forces President Zelensky to accept all the terms of Russia, she labeled that as a surrender. Okay, and that's exactly how I feel as well, right? Why should you be giving in to this unprovoked aggression by Russia into Ukraine, and especially for small country like Singapore and Malaysia and some of the other small country in the world, we cannot accept this kind of unprovoked aggression where big country can bully small country and things like that. So this is clearly dangerous and unacceptable. This is one thing that's very clear in Kamala Harris' philosophy. The Middle East, while Kamala Harris is very pro-Israel as well as all American president is, but she is a lot more balanced, and she wants President Netanyahu of Israel to do more to protect the civilians in Gaza and repeatedly call for ceasefire and call an end to the conflict. This doesn't seem to be the philosophy of Donald Trump. This stance of bringing Middle East war to an end seems to be a stance of Kamala Harris. And comes to immigration, I think she's a lot more accommodating to some of these foreign immigrants and things like that. She's going to tighten immigration rules in US, but I think she's going to be a lot more flexible compared to that of President Donald Trump. So this is her philosophy. So I think to sum up, both candidates are neck to neck with a very slight advantage in the case of Kamala Harris. It does help that Kamala Harris is a lady and win a lot of lady votes as well. And she's non-white and she's also winning a lot of the non-white votes. But at this juncture, it is neck to neck, neck to neck. It's very difficult to predict a winner. And what is more interesting is it's very difficult to predict the economic implication if Trump were to win or Harris were to win. What I've shared so far is the consensus view of many economists, but most of the economists has also highlighted that it's really difficult. For example, Donald Trump said that, I'm going to slap on a lot of trade wars and tariffs at China and things like that. And a lot of the economists are saying that will cause inflation. But Trump himself said that, when I did this to China, there wasn't really an inflation problem to US in 2017 and 18. That is also true as well, right? So it's very difficult to analyze this kind of economic implication. I would certainly adopt what I call a wait and see approach. If either party wins, I don't think there's a need for me to react to any of this outcome. And we do have our own internal preference of who we should win. Some people like Donald Trump because he's white. Some people like Donald Trump because he's tough. Some people like Harris because she's a lady. Some people like Harris because she's she's pro Ukraine, pro justice. But some people like Donald Trump because he's gonna put an end to the war in Ukraine and Russia, which I think he can. So kind of difficult to say what your preference is, but I do know, at this juncture, it is difficult to predict a win. We think that there's a slight lead in the case of Kamala Harris, but it doesn't mean that Kamala Harris win is necessarily good or bad for the stock market. I would say at this juncture, that if Kamala Harris were to win, it will be what I call business as usual for the stock market. If Trump were to win, there will be some volatility, not necessarily in the negative way, and it's more cloudy in the future outlook because of what he threatened to do and things like that. But it's not necessarily all bad, and it could turn out to be all good. Rather than trying to anticipate some of these outcomes, my take is that I will adopt a wait and see approach and not react to any of this outcome. So what do you think? So most importantly, let's have some fun to predict, who's going to win. More importantly, what's the implication if either one were to win, right? Make your comments in our Telegram channel and also our YouTube comments. Remember, hit like and subscribe, and I'll see you in a day or two. Bye-bye.